What is up, everybody? Lines on Paper here, and if there is one thing that I dislike, it's trying to be a channel that sticks up for the comic book industry and why it's not just racing down the drain and then having them do things that make me look like an utter fool for doing it. So, we're going to talk about DC's free comic book day offerings for 2021. But before we do that, my comic book, Malevolent Rising, issue number 4, still funding at Indiegogo.com. Please check that out. I'm going to be taking it down very, very soon. But on with my review/rant. So, DC Comics has unveiled its slate of free comic book day offerings for 2021. Now, Free Comic Book Day normally takes place around Star Wars Day, usually the first Saturday of May. It's been moved to, I believe, August this year, just because of pandemic reasons and when things can open up and everything else. But that's what we've got. Now, this year's Free Comic Book Day seems a bit big, but probably because it's kind of like the grand return to comics. Comic shops and getting everything up and running, which I fully support as somebody who, like I said, I want the comic book industry to succeed. I want to see it around and healthy for years to come. And unlike a lot of people that I listen to on social media and on YouTube, I think it will be. But then things like this happen and make me feel like I'm on the wrong side of history here. So let's go ahead and hit these previews. So first up is Batman, because of course it is. So now Batman, solid entry for Free Comic Book Day. You can see we've got Tinian and Jimenez are going to be offering up a story here, which is the current creative team for the Batman comic, which is red hot right now in shop. So that is a smart move. But they have also announced that there's going to be another story in here that's going to be featuring a preview to the I Am Batman series coming up by John Ridley, who is the writer of the other history of the DC universe, which is not a series that I'm wild about because I don't like to gripe about inclusion and diversity and stuff in comics because I think it's necessary. I think it's good for comics in the sense that it makes comics reflect the real world better, which is something that they need to do. But that being said, I don't like the idea of going back and retconning an entire comic book universe simply because we find the older days of comics to be problematic. They are what they are. That's it. Deal with it. Make improvements going forward. Give us new characters that are exciting. Give us new stories that are exciting. Find us talent to get excited about, and the readership will come. It's really no harder than that. So by going back and quote unquote fixing the DC universe, which is kind of what the original solicits of this story was meant to do, I didn't like that. I'm not overly excited for what this I Am Batman series is going to have in store for us. But we'll see. So Batman is by far the least offender, or one of the least offensive on this list. So next we've got Suicide Squad featuring King Shark, written by Brian Azzarello. And we got a Suicide Squad movie coming up. This was pretty much inevitable. You knew that they were going to have to tie them into what was going on. And I believe that New Comic Book Day and Suicide Squad are within a week of each other. So it makes perfect sense that they're going to give us some Suicide Squad representation. We also got an inside look at Suicide Squad Get Joker, which is a new series coming out, which sounds kind of exciting. I am looking forward to seeing that. So far, pretty good. I'd say we are 1.5 for 2. We got a half a good book and what looks like a pretty solid book coming up, and then we're going to fall off the rails a little bit here. So let's just keep on going. And we are going into Teen Titans, Beast Boy and Raven from Kami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo. Now, Beast Boy loves Raven. It's giving me a lot of Happy Days, Joni Loves Chachi kind of vibes. The artwork is the artwork. I mean, it's with these YA DC novels, they're what they are. We've taken 2 DC characters, we've made them look like a couple of regular people. I mean, Raven just looks like a purple-haired teen, and Beast Boy doesn't even look like Beast Boy. He's got a green streak in his hair. And he's got a phone with little green animals on it, and they're posing for a selfie together. This YA trend of DC Comics, I have not spoken about it. I know about the Starfire's Daughter book. I know about the Aquaman Ocean book. I know about all of these entries that they've made. None of them, at the time of this recording, have sold particularly well. I think the Gotham High one actually had some respectable numbers, and maybe the You Brought Me the Ocean book, because that one actually was well reviewed and well written. I didn't care for the art a lot in that book, though. So again, the comics industry is at kind of a rough point right now, and a lot of the times when people will criticize a book like this, the natural kind of knee-jerk response that people that are defenders of this book will come at you with is, well, it's just not for you. This book isn't written for you. Well, to that I say the comic book industry is not healthy enough to make books for certain niche people. If that's something you can do, if you have wildly successful properties that are profitable enough to support these little endeavors for niche audiences, when you are on life support, an industry on life support, an entertainment industry on life support, like the comic book industry, in my opinion, you should attempt to be as mass appeal as possible. So, throw in some bones for people who like this kind of storytelling. I've said before, comics, I think, thrive on interpersonal relationships, interpersonal drama, hookups and breakups. All that kind of stuff is always good for comics. If you look at every great run of every great book, there's an element of that, whether it's George Perez and Marv Wolfman on Teen Titans, Chris Claremont, John Byrne, X-Men, David Michelin, Todd McFarlane, Spider-Man. You name a legendary run on a comic book, and there is one of the components that makes that successful is relationship drama. And I get it, superhero books have dropped the ball on that a bit, and that is a complaint that I have. But I don't think this is the answer. These YA books, it gets a lot of Facebook clicks. It gets a lot of videos made about it. Here's one of them. So they get their publicity, and it's interesting how they can just put this kind of stuff out there and the internet will explode about it. And so it looks like it's got a following, but then when it comes to dollars being exchanged to buy the books, that doesn't materialize. Part of that too is a lot of the audience for this kind of stuff, they're pretty savvy and they just pirate it. So, and that is just the honest reality of what it is. So Beast Boy Loves Raven. And again, we haven't even got to this still isn't the worst thing that I'm seeing on this list. This includes a preview of the graphic novel from the New York Times best-selling series. The other half of my complaint about these books is a lot of these are written by people who don't write comics, don't read comics. They are best-selling authors for whatever genre that they write for, and I'm sure that they are very talented and very skilled at writing their style, whatever their writing style is, but that doesn't mean that you can just be handed a character, mutate them into something else, put them in your story, your type of story, and create something that audiences are going to like. You're going to create something that the people who are generally fans of that character are going to come and not recognize, and then if somebody picks up these books, likes it, and tries to transition it over to the comic books, they're not going to recognize it. These two are kind of op ends of each other, and I'll probably get some blowback for this video, but I'm just kind of going out. Now we have Batman and Robin and Howard. So, another graphic novel. What are we even doing here? From the New York best-selling author of Jedi Academy and Space Time. So, I don't know much about this story, but I do know that it looks like it's drawn in crayon. So, and I know that is a conscious choice. It was meant to look like this. It's meant to look like this kind of elementary school thing. This is a Robin in school storyline. He's got a friend named Howard. If you want to do a kid's book with Robin, that's great. And give it away for free. That is perfectly fine. That might be the best vehicle for this book, but it's just a preview of something else. And so again, whether this book is for you or not, you have to, the way I look at it is DC Comics put money and effort and resources into creating and licensing and getting this out there that could have been put into something that will grow the brand and grow an audience and do something that will actually make the company money, which is something that it desperately needs, especially since at the time of this recording, AT&T is looking to sell Time Warner, most likely to Discovery. In fact, I think that sale is already under works. And DC Comics' future is going to be very uncertain again. We don't know what their new owners are going to have in store for them. And if they can't show that they are a dynamic and profitable enterprise, there's going to be problems. And yeah, there's something to be said of, well, we're just going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But you're spending a lot of money on things that have, in my opinion, not as high a chance of success. But let's move on down the list. And now we come to Shannon Hale and Dean Hale, Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld. And I think this and the Robin are going to be one and the same book because they both reference each other on their covers. So maybe like a front and back kind of thing, which, is good if you're going to take two very, very experimental properties and put them together. Probably best just to put them out as one, and hopefully the fans of one will bleed into the other, I guess. So yeah, Batman, Robin, and Howard, Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, special edition special edition flip book, I should say. So Amethyst is a character that's kind of weird for me. I always thought she was kind of interesting. The idea of I think her history's changed a couple of times. The one I was always familiar with was kind of a girl from the regular world gets put into a fantasy type world of magic and everything else. Unfortunately, this has a lot of Netflix She-Ra vibes for me. So, I know that show's got its fans, and maybe they'll show up for this, and maybe this will be a worthwhile endeavor for DC Comics. If they can capture that fan base's enthusiasm and that actually translates into sales, maybe this will be something that can give them a little bit of profit margin. But Amethyst, that's a very obscure character to be putting on for the masses of Free Comic Book Day. I mean, again, this is the day where you get people that aren't familiar with your studio, familiar with your brand, are going to come through, and you're able to give them offerings. So imagine you're at Costco and you walk through and they got those little sample sections. They're trying to sample things that they want you to buy. You see the cheeses and the fresh fruit and maybe the artisanal sausages and stuff like that. And then you pass and you have the pickled herring. And it's out there, and they opened a bunch of cases of pickled herring to make these little sample sizes. And how many people are really going to stop and take the pickled herring? Probably not as many as are sampling the artisanal cheeses. So maybe stick to the cheese for the Free Comic Book Day. So what do we have here? This flipbook style sampler includes first look at two upcoming all ages original graphic novels, Batman and Robin and Howard by bestselling author Jeffrey Brown, Clumsy and Amethyst, Princess of Power, New York Times bestselling authors Shannon Hale, Princess Academy and The Goose Girl, and Dean Hale, Rapunzel's Revenge co-author, with art by Osla Fulmore. I hope I said that name right. If I didn't, or Isaiah Fulmore. I'm sorry, that's an I. I'm old with bad eyesight. Isaiah Fulmore. So Damian Wayne, there's something more important than protecting the streets of Gotham as Robin, but when he makes a critical mistake out on patrol, Damian finds himself benched. What's more, Damian's dad, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, decides that starting over in a new school will be just the direction Damian needs for his superhero routine. Good freaking Lord. Then Amaya, Princess of House Amethyst in Gemworld, is something of a troublemaker, and she and her brother have great fun until a magical prank goes much too far and her parents ground her to earth. Oh, Lord. Okay, so these are them. These are the Free Comic Book Day offerings from DC Comics. So they are really going into this YA graphic novel direction. I don't recall them being all that popular. I looked at the sales just before I made this video, and they have not done well. I don't know why DC is continuing to spend time and resources in this direction and putting out content that it doesn't look like anybody's really asking for or buying. So, and here we are. I know we're giving it away for free, but I mean, these are previews. These are meant to get people to go out and buy your book. I mean, what would you rather have? Would you rather have people seeing a preview of your studio at your worst, or at least previewing something that in history has shown people do not want? Or should we have been focusing more on maybe like building up Batman and Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, all those characters? All your characters who are, again, DC's not doing great and they need to do better. I would think you normally would use Free Comic Book Day to hype a big story event. I see that they're doing that with the Batman. There you go, right there. Get your first look at Batman Fear State, which is the next big storyline. Why isn't every offering like this? They could have taken the Raven book, patched it in with the Amethyst and Damian Wayne book, done one YA preview, and maybe made room for another one of their characters who you count on to be your stalwarts to make you your money. Because again, when the comic book industry is healthy, these other little niche projects that aren't made for me, that are made for a certain audience, they can come out and they can have low sales, because at the end of the day, you're still going to be doing well because your top tier books are selling well and are carrying these other things. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have a book that's carried by more profitable, bigger brothers and sisters. It helps you have a larger audience, because there might be a small audience for, say, Sergeant Rock comic books. But you know what? You can make a Sergeant Rock comic book that only sells 2,000 copies, because if you have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman all selling over 100,000 copies. See what I mean? If you have a profitable, strong core, then you can have these other little niche books that cater to your certain audiences, and it'll all work out in the end. Those books can be less profitable because the other books are so profitable, and in the end you have accumulated a bigger total audience. But if you have your main books are barely making money, then you have the mid-tier books are all losing money, and then you're throwing these just really weird experimental things that nobody's really excited for out there, I don't see how that's a viable business model. Also, as far as, again, when it comes to diversity in comics, I don't see how it does the effort of diversity in comics any favors when you're putting out a subpar product. And I mean, we've seen these characters succeed in the past. We've seen, plenty of diverse characters come out and be interesting and be exciting and get fan following and get people really. I think about, for just DC Comics, for example, I think about Static Shock, I think about Steel, I think about, again, Amethyst. She was popular when the New 52 was fairly new. So what do you guys think of this slate of Free Comic Book Days? Are you going to be picking these up? I know if your stores are anything like mine, I'm only allowed so many choices at the Free Comic Book table. I'm not allowed to just take one of everything. So usually you get a ticket, and that's good for 6 books or something like that. And would I use one of my 6 selections on any of these? Well, I would for Batman, possibly Suicide Squad. I haven't really looked at what Marvel and Image and Dark Horse and the others are going to be putting out there, but we'll see. So give me your opinions in your comments down, or give me your opinions in the comment section down below. While you're there, please hit like and subscribe. Really helps me out. It helps the channel grow. And I think that's enough for now. So I look forward to hearing your opinions on this, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.